Okay, so we're up to section 1.7, day 1, no pre-lesson. You guys are on a roll. Now before we get rolling, look back here on the other page, page 41. Got a whole bunch of formulas if you ever wonder where these formulas are coming from. But we'll tap into a bunch of these little formulas as we go. So, starts off unbelievably easy. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, is it really going to be this easy? Some of them are, but there are some stinkers on this assignment. So watch this. 3 less than 2 times a number. So is this like this? Or is it like this? This one. Okay, so you don't write it just in the order that it comes at you. You got to use your head. It's 3 less than, so you're going to subtract 3 from something. You're going to subtract 3 from 2x, okay? That's what it's all about. 4 more than. Now last time I made a big stink out of the order. In this case, it doesn't matter. You could put 4 plus, or you could put the plus 4 on the end. 3% of a number. Well, 3% looks like this, but as a number, it's 0.03x. And that's it. Starts off pretty good. Here we go. The area of a rectangle. Uh-oh. Better draw a picture so your brain can process this. Whose width is 2 less than the length. So now watch this. If I said, okay, I want this to be the length, like this, and the width is 2 less than this, I'm just going to call it L minus 2. See, I'm not going to introduce W, even though I want to. See, it compared it to the length, so I'm only going to use L. And then it says find the area using these 2 dimensions. Well, if we look back here, the area of a rectangle, length times width. Here's my length, here's my width. So the area would be L, length, times width, L minus 2. And you could multiply that through if you wanted to, but. So there's a formula for the area of a rectangle. This rectangle with these characteristics, okay? Now this one, kind of a common sense special, I think. This says, what's the price after a 25% increase of the original price is X? Well, that's got to be X plus 0.25X, which is 1.25X. There's my answer. Okay? What's your income after a 3% drop in the current income of X? Well, I take my income, which is X, I subtract 3% of my original income. Well, that's 1x minus 0.03x, which is just 0.97x. That's 97% of my original income. Stated right there. Okay? Pretty simple. Again, these are going to turn into some stinkers, so hold your hat. What's the actual cost of an item selling for X dollars if the sales tax rate is 7.25%? Well, first of all, the item is X. Then I got to add this tax rate, which I don't move the decimal this way. I move it this way. So it'd be 0.0725x. You could leave it there, or you could say, you know what, it's 1.0725x. And there you go. Okay? This is just a generic question. The area of a rectangle is a function of length and width. All right. Here we go. This is where it's going to start getting a little more challenging. Write the area of a circle. All right, let's stop a minute. Let's start by saying what even is the formula for the area of a circle? It's pi r squared. As a function of its radius and its diameter. Well, if you look right here, guys, it already is a function of its radius right here, so we'd be done. Now, how do we write it as a function of the diameter? Well, we'd have to use our noggin a little bit and just think for a second. isn't it true that if we wanted to figure out how to use it as diameter D, that's basically what they're saying, use D instead of R, I would have to think for a second, and I'd have to go, okay, this is D. And I know this is my radius, but how do I name this little piece of it only using D? Well, wouldn't that be D over 2? You cut the diameter in half. And that's what this is really telling you to do. Use the letter D. So I'd use the same formula, area equals pi, don't use R, but doesn't D over 2 represent R? And now I just do the math. So that'd be pi D squared over 4. And there's my area formula using the diameter, not the radius. Okay? So there it is. There's the weird one. There's the normal one. Okay? Now, let's dive into this. The height of a cylinder, what's a cylinder? It's like a Coke can. Watch this now. Is twice as long as the diameter. Well, if this is the diameter, you guys gotta follow this now, so I'm going to get out my pretty markers. There's my diameter. I'm going to call that D, because that's what it is. But it says the height is twice my diameter. So I get to call this 2D. See, that's my height. Now it says write the volume of the cylinder as a function of its radius. Boy, they're throwing some curveballs at us. Stay calm, use your head, and think for a second. So we want the volume. Let's figure out what the volume formula of a cylinder even is. So they're going to give it to us right back here. It's volume equals pi r squared h. See that right there? So I'm going to steal it. Volume equals pi r squared h. So this is saying, write it as the formula, write the volume formula only using r. That's what this is really saying. So the only thing I need to change is this h. What does the h stand for? Height. Well, wait a minute. If the height is 2 diameters, couldn't we say then that if we want to go back to here, we could say, wait a minute, if I have to use R, I'm going to take that D out, and I'm going to call that 2R, because 2 radii make 1 diameter. Then if I have to double it, that would be 4R. And that's what I'm going to put in place of the 8. So it's pi r squared times 4r. And if I multiplied that all out, I'd get 4 pi r cubed. And that's just how you have to do. You have to kind of think about it, be creative, and just make it happen. All right. A couple stinkers on the back here. So example 10, the legs of right triangle are equal. Well, if that's the case, isn't this a 45, 45, 90? I'm not sure they wanted us to know that, but let's see what it says. Write the length of the hypotenuse as a function of the length of its legs. So if this is an L and this is an L, boy, the easiest thing to do would be to remember my 45, 45, 90 rules. And it's saying write the length of the hypotenuse as a function of the length of the legs. If you remembered your rule, you'd go, L square root of 2. There it is. Okay? Now, if you didn't remember your 45, 45 rules, I think they probably wanted you to go, the hypotenuse is equal to A squared plus B squared. So that'd be H equals 2L squared. Like this. And yeah, maybe anyways, I'm going to stick with this. Okay? So we're going to go on to example 11. I'm not sure what that was all about. I like this way a lot better. Okay, sorry about that mess. So anyways, this says the base of an isosceles triangle is a fourth as long as the two equal sides. So we got an isosceles. I'm going to draw this a little differently. It didn't say isosceles right triangle. That's what I was about to draw. It just says isosceles. So it says that the base is a fourth as long as the two equal sides. Different way of thinking of it. If I let this be a B, that means this is 4 times as long. Okay? And now it says write the area of the triangle as a function of the length of the base. So they're saying use only the letter B. All right, well, we got some work to do. First of all, the formula is 1/2 the height. Well, 1/2 the base times the height. If you remember from geometry class, and it's right down here, 1/2 base times height. So really what we need to do is figure out somehow to figure out height in terms of base. This is going to be a little tricky. Where's my height? Well, remember, in geometry, these need to form 90-degree angles. And I don't have that. So I got to make it happen by drawing in my height right here. Now watch what happens. If this whole thing is B, then what is this little shaver right here? That little shaver is B over 2. Now watch, because I got to figure out how to represent the height in terms of B. So I'm going to put my H right there, and I see that this is a 90-degree triangle. So I'm going to go A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and this could get messy. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So now I just got to crunch some math out and get H by itself so we know what H is in terms of B. So, because that's what we're going to put in here so that we only have B's. A little math trickeration. So H squared plus B squared over 4 equals 4B squared. Now, I'm going to go like this. H squared equals 4B squared minus, I'm going to subtract that from both sides, over 4. Now I got like terms, so I'm going to think of this as H squared equals 16B squared over 4 minus 1B squared over 4. Well, give myself some space. H squared equals 16 fourths minus 1 fourth is 15 B squared all over 4. And so now I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and as crazy as this looks, that's going to be B square root of 15 all over 2. That's what H equals, B square root of 15 all over 2. So I'm going to take this H out. I'm going to replace it with this and let it mash together. So I know I'm running out of space, but I'm going to get 1/2 B, that's from this and this, times my new H, B squared of 15 all over 2, and then just multiply all that together. B times B is B squared, so I get B squared square root of 15, and then 2 times 2, those are both in my denominator, and there it is. There is my area formula if I just want to use my base. All right, so there we go. There's a lot how the old mathematicians would come up with these old formulas. So, last but not least, a square is inscribed in a circle. Kind of hard to draw. I'm going to do my best. So that means we got this going on, just like that. The circle has a radius of 2r. See, that's already weird. Where can I draw